Morning. Sorry for the delay. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Appreciate the energy in the room and try to keep this morning. We've got a few things on the agenda. We've already talked about. Welcome to the deputy mayor, Dean Frankowski, and the deputy warden, Dean Frankowski, and the warden, Doug Calvert, as well. So thank you, everybody. So we are calling this meeting to order, and we're going to have a moment of reflection. All right, we are going to start at item 3.1, the confirmation of the agenda. Did you need to adjust the agenda? Thank you, Mayor Orr. Yes, please. A piece of correspondence was added to the agenda on Friday afternoon. If we could amend the agenda for that edition, please. Okay, so as amended with the, is it written? Yes, it was written comments received from Adrian Chile. All right. Okay, so I have a recommendation that the council agenda dated November 4th, 2025 be approved as circulated within the minute moved by Councillor Marvell, seconded by Councillor Forview. All those in favor? Carried. Declaration of preliminary interest starting on this morning. Seeing none, we have a report for closed session. There is nothing to report. And I should have mentioned, this is our new CAO, Will Jakes. This is his first meeting. So, welcome, Will, to the team. Thank you. We are moving on to consent agenda item 6, and we have 6.1, 6.25. Would anybody like to see any pulled for discussion this morning? Councillor Vanessa?
6.25.
Okay.
And just, it's an update from the Upper Thames Conservation Area, and I was wondering if we could request somebody from Upper Thames to come out and explain the outcomes budget to us. We have that happen every year, and I would like to have it on.
Through Mayor Orr, I have sent a request. We've had discussions before about the budget, and we've sent the request for the 1.5% decrease, as well as having both the center manager and the representative attend at council meeting. So they're just trying to coordinate with the Lakeland budget.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Seeing none, I have a recommendation that the consent agenda 6.1 to 6.25 be received for information under the regular and special council minutes of October 21st, 2025 be adopted. Moved by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, second by Councillor Fortney. All those in favor? Carried. Public meetings, public meeting for zoning bylaw for 1816 Road 138. Haley, if you would like to comment on that. Okay, so council is adjourning its meeting at 9:35. We have a recommendation that the council meeting be adjourned at 9:35 in order to convene a public meeting pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act concerning an application for zoning bylaw amendment for the property located at 1816 Road 138 in the township of Perth South. The application is okay, mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Marvell, second by Councillor Jeffbell. All those in favor? Carried. The application is for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to satisfy condition 7 of consent application B35-24. The application is submitted by Stan Brookshaw and is for the property described as lot 14 concession WMR Blanchard Ward 1816 Road 138. I will now ask the clerk to advise and confirm the method and date of the notice given for this meeting. Thank you, Mayor Orr. Notice was circulated by email due to the postal strike, and a sign posted on the property as of October 15th, 2025, as required under the provisions of the Planning Act, as well as being posted on the township website. I will now ask Haley Halima to provide an overview of the application. The floor is yours, Haley.
Good morning, Mayor and Councilors. I'll be presenting zoning bylaw amendment 7-25 for lands municipally known as 1860 Road 138 in the township of Perth. Next slide, please. The subject lands are located on the west side of Road 138 and surrounding properties are primarily used for agricultural purposes. The subject property is designated as agriculture in the county official plan and zoned agricultural in the Perth South zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. The subject application is required to satisfy a condition of consent application B 35-25, which received conditional approval in September of 2025 by Perth County to sever a surplus farm dwelling as a result of the consolidation of the remnant agricultural lands with an existing agricultural operation. The subject application proposes to rezone severed lands from agricultural zone to special agricultural zone A-1 to permit the existing residential and accessory uses. The application also proposes to rezone the retained lands from agricultural zone to special agricultural zone A-3 to prohibit any new residential development on the agricultural lands. In light of the foregoing, it is the opinion of staff that the zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms with the County of Perth official plan. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does the applicant or their agent wish to provide any additional information? Okay. I'll now ask the clerk to provide any comments received from the stipulated agencies and landowners. Thank you, Mayor. Or no comments were received. Is there any person in attendance who wishes to make any comments regarding the application? All persons are to state their name and address for the minutes. Seeing none, do any councillors have any questions regarding the application? Seeing none. Does the applicant wish to respond to any of the comments? There were none, so thank you to all those in attendance for their input. The council consider all comments received for making its final decision on the application. So now I'm going to have a recommendation here that the public meeting pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act concerning the applications for zoning bylaw amendment for the property located at 1816 Road 138 be adjourned at 9:39. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Jeff Bell. All those in favor? Carried. And I have a recommendation that the Township of Perth First South Council receives the report dated November 4th, 2025, entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZN 7/2025, submitted by Caroline Baker on behalf of Stan Brookshop, affecting lands described as Concession West Mitchell Road, Lot 14, municipally known as 1860 Road 138, and that the Township of Perth South Council approves zoning bylaw amendment ZN 7/2025. Moved by Councillor Vanessa, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now we are at a public hearing for a minor variance at 137 Vernon Street. All right. The Committee of Adjustment will now hold a public hearing to consider a minor variance application. The application is for the property currently owned for quality homes. Number A05-2025. Property is Lot 5 Plan 504 Downey Ward 137 Herman Street, Sebringville. This hearing is an opportunity for the township to advise the public of the purpose of the intent of the minor variance and receive their input prior to making a decision. I'm advising that any person present who wishes to receive written notice of the decision made by the Committee of Adjustment is asked to give their name and mailing address to the Secretary Treasurer at this time. No written notice, especially except as previously noted, will be given unless requested at this time. I'm advising that all persons attending this hearing will be given an opportunity to be heard and to make a presentation. I will now call on the county planner to present the planning report and the recommendations.
Thank you. I'll be presenting minor variance application A05-2025 for lands municipally known as 137 Herman Street in the township of Perth South. The subject lands are rectangular in shape and approximately 0.15 hectares in area with a frontage of 24 meters along Herman Street. The subject land is designated village and zoned hamlet village residential. Next slide, please. The subject application is proposing relief from section 5.1.3 to increase the maximum accessory structure height from 5 meters to 5.8 meters. and relief from section 7.2.8 to increase the maximum lot coverage from 25% to 31.5% to facilitate the construction of a 139.35 square meter accessory structure. Subject property is recognized as an undersized existing lot of record, having a smaller lot area and frontage than typically required under the current Perth South zoning provisions. Despite its reduced size, the proposed development demonstrates that adequate space is being maintained on the lot to accommodate proper grading and drainage, parking, landscaping, and private amenity areas while meeting all required yard setbacks. The presence of a private drainage easement along the north property line further limits the developable area. However, no structures are proposed within the easement, and the proposal appropriately respects these site constraints. Planning staff are satisfied that the requested increase in accessory structure height from 5 meters to 5.8 meters and the increase of lot coverage from 25% to 31.5% will not result in negative impacts on surrounding properties. The proposed accessory building will remain clearly secondary to the primary dwelling, and overall design is compatible with the residential character of the area. In light of the foregoing, planning staff recommend the approval of the minor variance application MV 5-2025 as the proposal is deemed minor, desirable for the land use of the land, and consistent with the planning policies and objectives outlined in the Planning Act, subject to the conditions outlined within the report. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I will now ask the Secretary Treasurer Clerk to provide any comments received by the stipulated agencies and landowners. Thank you, Chair. There were no comments received. Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or to speak in opposition of the application, and a request that you give your name and address for the record when they are recognized? Trevor?
Yeah, Trevor McNeil, MTE consultant, here with Richard Cole.
Welcome.
So just brief explain the reason for the minor variance is the height minor variance is due to you want to be able to put a camping trailer inside over the winter, so we need a 14-foot door. In order to do that, of course, we don't meet the height requirement right now with that. And then the lot coverage is pretty self-explanatory, just with the house and the shed, the deck being on a relatively small lot. 24% or 25% lot coverage is pretty small, so that's why we're asking for the minor variance up to 31.5 to accommodate everything. If there's any questions, you'd be happy to try to answer them.
So you're in support of it. I kind of messed up, so I should. Is there anyone present by video conference who wishes to make a presentation to speak in support of the application other than the application? We should request to give their name and address for the record when recognized, but you've said your comments, so we know that you're for it.
Yeah, okay,
Would you like to state your name?
Sheila Wolf, and I live at 143 Herman, so 2 blocks down.
Yeah.
Concern we have is just the water that runs off the field at times can be very significant, and it's going to be back onto that field. I couldn't hear everything that this lady was saying about how you're going to address water. So could you repeat that again? Because that lot between my neighbor Joe, who's right next to it, and the water coming off of there can be almost like a river.
So through the chair, we can't redirect the water that's through the field, but through the building permit process, they have to go through a grading and drainage plan, so we won't increase the water drain from the field itself. So we have to make sure that the draining is appropriate from the new lot that will be constructed.
So it's not going to impact the surrounding lots, how you do that grading?
Right, we can't legally make a further impact on your lot from the grading.
Okay. And second question is more about the percentage of the lot. When I look at that plan, you're saying going up to 31%. Somehow that looks like it's greater than 31% of the lot between the house and the building.
So for lot coverage, it just accommodates the building structures. So the driveway, for instance, doesn't count for lot coverage. So the driveway makes it look
Look
like
like it's
there's a lot
coverage.
more.
So you're only
It doesn't
going,
count.
so you only do buildings then in
Yeah.
coverage. Okay.
And then that will be the intent of the drainage plan, to accommodate that water, whatever water comes on the lot now. We have to be able to take that and and deal with it, we can't disperse it off to the abutting.
That,
Don't want to much we get.
that answer your question?
Yeah.
Does the applicant or agent wish to make any more comments in regard to the application? You have another comment? And your name and?
My name's Joe Roach. I live right beside the lot, at 139 Herman Street. The water that comes out of the field is actually, in my understanding, was originally, it was supposed to be addressed when the subdivision went in behind. But of course, that went back to farmland. So that's never gonna be addressed. Needs to be addressed somehow. There's no catch basin on that side of the road. So all water runs down the road. Like 200 feet down to the bend in the road, then runs another 200 feet down to the catch basins. Well, this spring, the water runoff of the field, it ended up being, well, it was a heavy rain during the night too. And the catch basins plugged up that are way down the road. Kept plugged up with straw from the fields. That water was 18 inches deep. The recycle bins and garbage bins were all floating and tipped, and it was a mess. But somehow, because that building is going to be closer to my property, like if you saw the water coming out, it goes out over from my place over that lot by about, at least 15 feet into the lot where the water runs out. So if you move that building back that you've only got 3 feet left, that's to be a restriction for the water. So the water would build up even deeper and rush through. It's already rapids running down my driveway when it gets bad. I think there should be a catch basin or something to address all this water. I'm just making that point that we need to do something.
We appreciate it.
Okay.
Would anybody like to comment on that?
Through the chair, there is, and this is, we have to look into this a bit further. I don't have solid evidence on everything yet, but there is a drain. It's prehistoric, we have to look into it a bit more, that they may be able to tap into, to allow for some of the water to be drained out. Again, further information, we need to look into that, and I was planning to respond to Joseph as well about that, but yeah.
Mr. McNeil?
That is one of the things that has been discussed right from the beginning as to whether or not we the time the catch basin across the road, and with that easement along the north side. There's no paperwork or evidence as to whether the drain's there or where it is. So that was one of the first things that was going to be done when they start to dig, is dig and see where the heck that drain is, if it's there. And if it's not there, then we'll probably have to tie into that catch basin property somehow. So it's not subject to the application, but it's something that's been discussed with full from the beginning, because when you're the last lot in the subdivision, usually you get all the water.
Okay, is there any questions from the committee members? Councilor Vanessa?
I'm just carrying on this water subject, looking at some pictures here, is there a possibility of sending that water, some of that water back through the field?
Right now, the field generally drains towards those lots. So unless the farmer was to
So,
To do that.
is there actually field drainage from that field going into those lots
surface drain,
and underwater drainage?
as far as tiles go, we don't know.
Is there a possibility to check out if there is a tile there that you can hook up to?
That we will, like, let's say when we start digging, the first thing we wanna do is dig for tile and lot and see what's there, but if there's nothing there and something has to be done with the farmland, that's kind of one of our hands, that's between the farmer and the township.
The landlord, it's township again, but is that something you can check into though?
Yeah.
Whether it's a neighboring landowner?
Yeah.
Because there was an easement there, right, for water to move.
Yeah, it is still there, it's just that we don't know if there's actually a pipe in the ground or not, we couldn't find any records.
So there may have to be a pipe put in across the road,
It may have to be,
and that will be all, dealt with during site plan, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions, council? Seeing none, we have, now that the committee will consider a resolution regarding each of the application. So at 7.2, I have a recommendation that the Township of Perth Committee of Adjustment approve application file MB 5/2025 submitted by Whole Quality Homes for lands described as Plan 504 Lot 5 unregistered municipally known as 137 Herman Street, and it relates to one relief from section 5.1.3 to increase the maximum accessory structure height from 5 meters to 5.8 meters. And relief from section 7.28 to increase the maximum lots coverage from 25% to 31.5% to facilitate the construction of a 139.5 meter square accessory structure subject to the following conditions. That the accessory structure proposed by the applicant be generally of a size and in location identified on the applicant's sketch and attached to his report to the satisfaction of the First Building Department. And that two, the owner obtain the necessary building permits within 2 years of the approval of the minor variance. Moved by Councilor Jeff Bell, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Carried. We're good to go.
thank you.
Okay, and the hearing is adjourned. There might be a few seats there. Hold on. All right, if we want to come in and grab another seat, you're welcome. We are moving on to 7.3, the Perth County Forestry Conservation Bylaw Review Update. Tyler, the floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, so through the mayor and local council, I thank you for having us here today. I'm Tyler Sager, the county clerk. With me here is also Marvin Smith, the forestry inspector, and Darrell Harley, who's the prosecutor for Oakland County on forestry matters. We're presenting an update on the county's forestry conservation bylaw number 3836/2021 to review the process and gather feedback on the proposed bylaw. This is part of the lower tier consultation period, roadshow as we call it, directed by county council. Next slide, please. Perfect. So let me start with some context about why this bylaw matters. Perth County's forestry conservation program exists to regulate tree destruction and injury with the goal of improving our forests, soil, fish, wildlife, and water resources. The reality of this is actually kind of concerning. Perth County has only 9% forest coverage. So to kind of put that in perspective with our neighboring municipality of Huron County, they have 16% coverage. We have significantly fewer woodlots than compared to regions in southwestern Ontario, and this makes the protection and proper management of our existing forested areas critically important. Next slide. Perfect. So we're not doing this in a vacuum. So the Forestry Act of 1990 defines good forestry practices as the proper implementation of harvest, renewal, and maintenance activities that minimizes harm to the ecosystems, wildlife habitat, soil and water quality, forest productivity, and recreational opportunities. Additionally, the Municipal Act of 2001, Section 270, requires municipalities to adopt and maintain policies for protecting and enhancing tree canopy and adequate vegetation. So this isn't optional, it's a legislative responsibility. Next slide. Thank you. So kind of walking through how we got here. So on the screen and the slide does give a bit of an overview. I'll walk through some of it. March of 2024, council directed the agricultural working group to review the existing bylaw. And then in April and May, staff researched and reached out to compare municipalities, particularly that of Oxford County, regarding a specific appeal exemption process that is listed in our draft bylaw. and then presented to the agricultural working group. In July of 2024, the working group received our detailed municipal comparison and analysis. And then in December of 2024, the working group presented the proposed updates based on those comparisons and that feedback. And then in April 2025, the working group finalized their recommendations. Next slide. So a little bit where we are at today, we go back, we come forward. In May of 2025, the agricultural working group submitted their report to county council with the proposed updates. And then in June 2025, the county council reviewed everything, directed staff to consult with all our tier municipalities. That's why we're here today, and to also host a public open house, which I'll discuss a little bit further in the future. But yeah, so today we're completing the consultation roadshow. This is our second stop, the last one being in North Perth on the 17th of November. And then the hopes is to come to county council for review and final approval Q1 of next year. Next slide. So we're looking at the municipal bylaw comparison. Council asked the agricultural working group to review the forest conservation bylaws from Oxford, Huron, Wellington, and Shannon counties. They went above and beyond that and also looked at Middlesex, Bruce, and Grey Counties to kind of give a more comprehensive picture of best practices. That full municipal comparison and the review is included as attachment in our June 5th County Council report. So if anybody would like to see that, it's publicly available, or I could supply it to Lizette to disseminate it to your council. Next slide. So some of the proposed changes to the bylaw, there's 4 different sections based on the research that came through the agricultural working group. One was definition and clarification, adding orchards, Christmas trees, and I'll get into that. Second was making sure that there was a windbreak addition. Third was the consolidation of previous amendments, and fourth, the exemption appeal process to add a formal process in there. So gonna kind of walk through a little bit more detail of these. So next slide. So first and foremost here is the proposed definitions. So this was Christmas tree plantation, cultivated fruit or nut orchard, and windbreak. All of these were mentioned within the bylaw, but didn't have a formal definition. So this would give it a formal definition, which helps out with prosecution as well as education understanding from the public's perspective. Next slide. So breaking that down again, because woodlots is still remaining in the draft proposed bylaw. And the addition, really, the only change there is the windbreak, just kind of adding that in to follow along. Next slide. So proposed definitions, just again, we've added committee. So we would add the definition for committee, which isn't part of the bylaw right now. However, if we do proceed, if council does approve the exemption appeal process, then we would need to have a definition for committee. So as it's listed there, that would refer to the land division committee or other similarly constituted committee designated by county bylaw. So it's a committee of council that's already pre-established. So we would use that as the definition. Next slide. Excellent. So this is just housekeeping, the consolidation of 2 previous amendments into the updated bylaw. So those 2 amendments are listed here. And if we go to the next slide, that kind of be great. Sorry, scroll right a little. No, sorry, scroll up. Oh, thanks. Okay, that's okay. In an updated version, I do have it listed out in the track changes, but it is in your bylaw that I handed out where you can see the housekeeping. So my point, all there. Thanks, Ken. So listed here is the proposed bylaw exemption appeal process. This would be the significant addition. It's proposing an exemption appeal process modeled after the Oxford County's approach. So when we kind of look at this, I'm just going to walk through what that procedure process would look like. So first, an applicant must submit the notice of intent. It's not a permit, it is just a notification to the county as well as the forestry inspector that they intend on cutting some trees down. So we receive that. Once that's completed, they would receive a decision from the officer. If they disagree or they need an exemption, they can then appeal that to the land division committee, which would be the committee that would oversee the appeals. The committee would then hear from the applicant, also community input, follows a similar process to some planning matters as well. So we would allow for notification to adjoining landowners, so then that way they're apprised of the information. And then officer expertise would also be included in that before a decision would be rendered. Now, the committee itself then would be able to grant the exemption, they could grant it with modifications, or they could refuse it outright. But this process provides a fair, transparent, process to the community, inclusive of community input while maintaining protection of our forest resources. Next slide. So this just is a visual representation of just what I walked through right previously here. So it starts with the notice of intent, goes through the officer review, if needed, then moves into the committee for an exemption appeal process. So just a visualization of that. Thank you. Next slide. So as previously discussed here, we will be having an open house, a public open house. I'll make sure that I announce it, my words properly on this, December 10th, 2025, from 6 to 8 p.m. And it's gonna be at the Perth East Recreation Complex in Milverton. So again, December 10th, 6 to 8, Perth East Recreation Complex. So we'll be having a public open house. Staff will be present. They'll be available for questions and feedback. We'll also have frequently asked questions that are gonna be prepared, that would consist with answering any questions that might have kind of come beforehand. Now, for those of individuals who cannot attend that day, we also have a survey or feedback form that is available. So we really want to get the public's engagement on this process. And that is available as well as some of the information about this project on our website, which is www.perthcounty.ca/forestry. All right, next slide. So just next steps, kind of looking ahead, again, this is where we're at today, completing a literature roadshow, consulting with all our municipal councils to be able to garner any kind of feedback that councils might have from the literature perspective. Additionally, as I mentioned, we will be having that public open house December to gather community feedback and feedback form as well. And then early 2026 is our intention to go back to county council with the final proposed version of the bylaw, incorporating all the feedback from all the consultations that we've had, and any partners that would like to comment. Again, the feedback form is available, and we encourage everybody to use that. The next slide, please. I'll ask that Joe comes forward and can maybe give a bit of the prosecution process before we open up for questions.
Thanks, Doug.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Howard. I've been appointed by the county council pursuant to an agreement, a prosecutorial agreement, provide prosecution services in accordance with a document issued by the Administrative Attorney General called the Standards for Prosecuting Municipalities. And I perform my duties as a prosecutor independently of county council. That's a requirement. And with this new process, if it's going to go forward, I would not be involved unless there was no appeal or an appeal was denied. And then the landowner went forward and destroyed trees in any event. That's when we get involved. The process really is as follows. Marvin Smith, who's the county inspector, would go out, having received a notice of intent, to take a look to see whether or not there was evidence of tree destruction that was not permitted. There may have not have been a notice filed, and the Municipal Act and the bylaws authorizing the inspector to enter private property without a warrant. Can't go into a dwelling house, but can inspect to see whether or not an offense has been committed, or there's evidence of that an offense has been committed. I then receive a report from the tree inspector, and then I must exercise my discretion to determine whether or not there's sufficient evidence or that the circumstances require charges be laid. If charges are laid, then the court process is engaged, and of course the defendants are entitled to the presumption of innocence, which means that the burden on the prosecution, in this case the county, is to prove that an offense was committed beyond a reasonable doubt. If there is a finding of guilt, then the court will consider the appropriate penalty. And the most significant factor the court considers is what's called general deterrence, to make sure that the message is sent out to the community that if an offense was committed, that it's not going to be business as usual, that there should be a sufficient sense that discourages others from doing the same thing. And since 2020 in Perth County, there's been 11 prosecutions. All of them have resulted in fines because there have been convictions. And the average fine imposed by the courts has been $5,000. In addition to that, there's a surcharge of 25% that's available to the province. Most recently, the level of fines has been increasing, and just as an example, in a neighboring county. This fall, I completed a trial in which 6 acres of trees were destroyed. And the total fines levied against the landowner and his company, that was was $400,000. So a very significant number. And of course, that did not include the 25% permission to surcharge. So going forward, as in my role as prosecutor, I will now be asking for more significant fines than I have in the past. So in essence, then, I would not be involved unless and until there was either a blatant conduct which did not comply with the bylaw in terms of the filing the notice of intent and that sort of process, or the notice of intent had been filed and there was an appeal that was denied, but the landowner had it anyway and destroyed trees. So that in essence is what the prosecutorial process is.
Why don't we wait to the end?
Okay.
Your that?
So I think
That would be the end.
Oh,
Yeah.
Marvin wanna say?
I can answer questions, but I don't have a presentation, no.
Okay, that's the end, go ahead, Sam.
It's evident that the fines aren't high enough. $5,000, and even though the 48,000 on 6 acres, when land around here is going between 40 and 50,000 an acre. I don't think the fines are steep enough to send a message to the farmers with excavators that are taking trees down, that we don't see it. I know the process is complaint driven and it's hard to catch everybody, but a $5,000 fine or a $48,000 on 6 acres isn't a message to me. I don't think it's steep enough. And in our tree, a report that we get through council, we never see a fine, so we don't know. And that's the first time I've heard that anybody got fined. So we don't know if there's prosecution or fines or. I think there's a lot going on in the backcountry and Perth South. But I don't think the fines are steep enough to send a message.
just so you, I may not have heard it, but the fines that were levied in the last case were $400,000.
Oh, 400, okay. So
So
on the 6 acres?
for 6 acres of pre-construction, and then the same person was fined a few months later, almost $200,000 for another offense that occurred. So I hear you.
What about the $5,000 ones like that?
Those are really ancient history.
Oh, okay.
There's only one case pending now in Perth County. And we're struggling with, I think that the defense wants to resolve it. So we're going to what's called a judicial pretrial. See whether we can get some assistance from the court to persuade the defendant that these fines must increase. And they must send a message to the community that this conduct will not be tolerated.
Can I just clarify something, Sam? We are just receiving this for information. It's the county council that will make the decision on stuff. Plus the 400,000, that was not our county, that was a different county.
Was it ever found?
Yeah.
Yeah, so today, we're just accepting this for information, and then there'll be some questions from council. We have a second delegation behind this that has a different opinion, and we'll go from there. Any other questions from council? Councilor Ness.
Good, why don't you, Wonder, could you go back, Ken, could you start the presentation from Tyler? So on the first thing here, Tyler, you mentioned, second paragraph, that Perth County has a 1% tree cover. And Huron has 16, and you mentioned that's extremely undesirable. Why is that?
It's a great question. I'm gonna defer it to Hannah King, who's really just more versed in, I think, the information here, but the disparity between 9 and 16 is quite significant. And do you have any information about?
More
morning, Mary, will you be enlarged by any chance? Sorry. But you can watch this again on YouTube.
Morning, Mayor and Council. So most specifically to Perth South, the tree cover in your local municipality is 9.88%. And your total forest coverage is 3,890 hectares. So I am the Resilience and Stewardship Coordinator for the county, and I have a background in ecology. And the difference between 16% and 9% coverage, other than being double, is the other ecological benefits that forests provide to adjacent lands. So, I mean, if you're a hunter, you wanna have lots of bush lots in your area so that there are more deer rearing areas. If you're an agricultural farmer and you have cover crops, you also know that adjacent forest cover helps with issues with wind erosion on your topsoil and wind damage on your crops. If you raise livestock, you will understand that forest cover provides shade and helps reduce mortality among livestock that are in pasture and also in shelter belts around farms. Also, we know that forests provide ecological services to all of us, not just the landowner, including flood attenuation, air purification, and habitat for other species that we rely on, including pollinators. The recommended forest cover to support a minimum of 50% of natural species in an area, as said by federal and provincial governments, and this is widely acknowledged and accepted data, is a minimum of 30% coverage to support a minimum of 50% of the species. So if we are at 9% coverage, we must understand that our forests that are existing, not only are they having massive threats upon them by invasive species, by land change, by other natural factors like climate change with massive ice storms that decimate them, as we saw in West Perth. We have to understand that a 9% forest cover doesn't leave us a lot of wiggle room for resilience within Perth County. And that's the scientific basis behind it.
Well, science is changing every day, most of what you said is not science. There is very few livestock out there anymore, livestock are in barns. I do agree, we absolutely need more windbreaks for South. For South and for County, with some of the richest agriculture land in Ontario. Other than, I would argue, parts of Oxford County and the Hollow Marsh, we may be the most, the county with the best land to produce food. And arbitrarily saying it has to be 15 or 30%, where are we gonna get our food from? There are other counties much less than Perth South and Perth County with tree cover. And they seem to be managing. Right? So I'm just wondering where that number came from, like. I can see, as I said, I can see the windbreaks, some of this other stuff, I think it's being laid up as we go. Second slide there, can you forward this? It talks about proper implementation, this bylaw. Will help with the implementation of harvest, renewal, and maintenance. All we're doing with this, in my opinion, in this bylaw, is simply saying we can't cut trees. We're not saying we're gonna plant trees in forests, we're not gonna thin forests and have proper tree growth, we're not gonna go out and clear buckthorn, hawthorn. None of that is involved, that's how you maintain trees and get better forests. None of that is in this policy. I mean, I'm kind of disappointed, actually. I mean, the county has come here to present this to us. And the second speaker is prosecution. I mean, this seems to me this is intimidation, if anything, if nothing else. I'm actually quite disappointed. I guess I have another question, and I don't know if the lawyer here, it's probably a question from Marvin, I'm guessing. And as some of you may or may not know, Marvin Marvin and I have had our arguments in the past. Quite strenuous arguments, and I think we've come together on some things too. We've managed to clear a lot of hogweed together. So I don't know where we stand today, Marvin, but this is not an attack on Marvin also at all, or anybody else. So the question I have is on windbreaks here. In the new policy, it says that anything over half an acre is considered a woodlot, I believe it is. And that would take the right away from the producer, farmer, to clear those trees under it. Is that correct?
I can answer
Yes.
that as a
Oh, okay,
prosecutor. So yes, that would be an offense, but the idea is with the appeal process that, you know, they're obviously valued to windbreaks, we all know that.
Right.
And it may be in certain circumstances that the committee agrees that this particular windbreak is valuable enough that it should be preserved, notwithstanding that technically it's a breach of the bylaw. That's the purpose of this review process.
Well, I personally trust you and I trust the agricultural working group. I don't know who will be your replacement or my replacement or the agricultural working group down the road. Can we not write in the bylaw right away that a windbreak will up to 1 acre or whatever it has to be? Why are we putting it, we can ask for an exemption, let's put it in right away.
Well, I think that's a decision that county council has to make. I think that's a
Exactly.
good point, and I think that's I understand there's gonna be a process for making those kinds of submissions to county council, and I think that, I thought I could speak to that, but at the end of the day, you know, I agree with you that where it's a work in progress, you know, there's a lot of different views that have to be considered and consulted before a final decision is made, and certainly the points you're raising are worthy of discussion.
And would there be an opportunity in the bylaw to, and I'll pick on myself, if I've got a farm that goes along the county road and it's probably 3/4 of a mile long. If I put a windbreak in there to benefit the community, to benefit the county, would that, and I'm gonna lose an acre or two of land, can I square off a bush somewhere else on that property so I don't lose any land?
That would be a decision that this committee would make, but certainly I think that would be a breach of the bylaw. And so you'd have to go through that process. And of course, you know, I'm assuming and expecting that the committee will be receptive to, you know, good forestry management and good land management, and also recognize the interests of farming, because I mean, it's obviously a very large part of this community. But you have to understand that the committee members are going to be sensitive to these issues. I mean, I can't think there would be any other approach to the committee except that they would listen very carefully and weigh the arguments being presented to it, you know, carefully. There's always competing interests, and you know, not every decision is going to be one that people like. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here is trying to find a way to address the concerns that you are espousing today, because there is value to them.
One of the concerns I have here is if I go speeding down the road, I get pulled over by a police officer, and I will be fine. But the police officer did not write the regulations, his boss did not write the regulations, the prosecutor did not write the regulations, they came from the provincial government. Or other government places. I'm concerned, nothing against Marvin personally or yourself personally, but when the officer and the prosecutor are writing the bylaw, that concerns me.
I don't write the bylaw. I'm no input into how the bylaw is written. My role simply here today is to say to you that if there is grounds for a prosecution, it's my call. It's not the county council's call. It's not gonna be that committee's call. It's gonna be my call, and that's because there has to be a separation between those that make the rules and those that enforce them.
Thank you. Well, one final comment. Can I get you to move that presentation ahead, please? I do not remember the page. If you could just scroll ahead. There was one in there that talked about, they used other counties as reference. Tyler, you'll know the right, it doesn't matter. That they, went, for ag working group, went and looked at other counties, at their bylaws. And yeah, there, of those 7 counties, 5 of them right now are using provincial standard of 1 hectare. And only 2 of them are not using that. I'm just curious why Purcell has decided not to use the provincial standard and we're going to something ourselves.
Sure, to answer that question. Sure. The standard in that you're referring to is the standard that's been used for decades. It's not changed.
Correct.
And your question may be, why has it been there decades ago, right? Like more than 50 years ago. It may be since the bylaw was first instituted in 1947. And it's because Perth County has less forest cover than any other county in Ontario other than Canton, Essex. That's the reason.
Okay.
Anna?
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to correct some information or set the, put this into perspective. So, Perth County has one of the top 4 highest farm cash receipts in the province. And Huron County either meets or exceeds the farm cash receipts that Perth County has, yet they have double the forest cover. So I just wanted to allow that to ruminate a little bit, that forest cover, may not impact farm cash receipts and the prosperity of our county in the agricultural sense. I'll yield the podium back to Tyler.
Councillor Bell?
Is the 9.88% including wind rates or excluding wind rates? When you tally it up.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the 9.8% in Perth South includes woodlots and woodlands. The woodlots are any forest cover that exceeds 0.2 hectares up to 1 hectare. So depending on the mapping, it may include some windbreaks and exclude others.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Councillor Duffy?
On windbreaks. To start with anyways, so if I've got a windbreak that's overgrown again with buckthorn or something like that. And I want to clean it up, is that, and I just got a Sunday afternoon and take a skid steer out and clean up the fence line. Is that now something that's going to be an offense under this?
I can respond to that. So, the protected species are set out in Schedule 8 of the bylaw, buckthorn is certainly not included in that protected species. So there's no problem taking that out. The difficulty you may find is if buckthorn is sort of in a woodland and trying to get at it without injuring the storing trees.
Well,
it may-
for this point, I'm just talking about, this is, let's say, a fence line.
Yeah, so if it's just along the fence line, and you're taking a buckthorn alone, there's no offense committed.
Okay.
And it's only the species that are protected of the size that is specified in the bylaw that are protected. So let's take a maple tree. If it's of a certain size that exceeds the protected size of the bylaw, it's, you can cut that and use it for whatever purpose you want to. The idea of the bylaw, as I understand it, is to protect what we do have left and also to provide for regeneration.
Yeah.
If I may, so through the mayor, just I think it's a valuable point to make here too, is that as we go through this process and once we bring back in Q1 a bylaw to council, should it get passed, whatever that bylaw might be, I think it's important and prudent of the county and staff to go ahead with education. And I think we've talked about this extensively, is communication, education is going to be the next best thing. Marvin is certainly available for any what if scenarios and questions, and we strongly encourage the public and have that if you have questions before you proceed with any kind of cutting, just make a phone call to Marvin or an email to county staff that we can pass it along. I think if that's the first step that is taken, then we would see a lot less of their own offense on the prosecution side of things. It's just reaching out and having a conversation. Thank you.
Just one last question here. We spoke earlier about general deterrence,
Yes.
which is fine. You mentioned since 2020, there's been 11 prosecutions. As Councillor Corby mentioned, he didn't know what, I've not known about this. How can something like this be a general deterrence if it's not public?
I agree with you, and I'm not sure why the news doesn't get out. I mean, it's not part of my function to advertise what's happened or to somehow get the news out. But I understand that there's a newsletter that the county puts out. I'm hoping that this information is included in that newsletter and that people will read it. But I agree with you that, one of the big issues, and maybe that's why it's important that we start talking about some very significant fines, is that, yeah, the news is not really getting out there the way that it should. I agree with you. And, I mean, as much as, I don't like to prosecute these cases, it seems to me that in preserving cases, that's the only way to get the message in.
And so there is nothing, that that would restrict the information coming out.
It's all public because the court system is public, and once the prosecution is started and there's a trial, the entire trial, the transcript, the decision the court makes, the reasons for judgment, both for guilt or innocence, and if there's a guilty plea, the reasons for the fine, all public knowledge.
So that, the opportunity exists, it may come down the road at some point if they so wish, to make those, charges, I guess, if you want to call it, or, public convictions. I
Well,
guess.
it's always a sensitive thing because just because a person's charged, you may not want to disperse.
Possibly conviction.
But once a conviction is registered, there should be no reason why that's not published. The question is, where do you publish it? I mean, if the newspapers aren't interested, or the other news media is not interested, which I think has been the situation so far. And no one's checking the county website to look for that specific information, and the word is not getting out. So perhaps with the increase in the fines, maybe that will garner more attention. But so far, I agree with you, the word is not out there. But the good news is that the prosecutions, when I started this 25 years ago, I was prosecuting a lot more cases than I have in the last 5-6 years. So there's definitely an awareness out there that there could be some consequences. However, I still think that we've got a good point. We're not getting enough information out there so that people understand there could be dire consequences if you don't comply with that bylaw.
Tyler, I just had a quick question. As a county councillor, why don't I know that we're prosecuting people?
Yes, so through the mirror, some of that information, specifics, we wait until it kind of goes through the process, but there is going to be, I believe, updated reports that county council will receive. To kind of dovetail off of Daryl's point as well for increased communication, I think this is an opportunity for us. As we do proceed with Marvin's monthly reports, that if there are convictions that are rendered, that we could go ahead and supply those into those reports. Which then get disseminated to the lower tiers as well for increased communication, which lands on, I believe, all lower tier consent agendas. So I believe that there's an opportunity for us to create more communication around convictions.
And I can say that the practice so far has been not to name names. And I think that might be, and so there's just a general reluctance I've seen for publishing some of the results of the trials that have taken place. And maybe what we need to see maybe is a change in attitude with respect to that. But we also have to protect the presumption of innocence. And so I don't think that it's appropriate to name names unless and until there's a conviction.
Okay, are you? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, just clarification. I believe Hannah compared revenue from Huron County and Perth County and said that Huron County was considerably more. And they should be. They're over 30% larger area. So I would expect that they would have more farm revenue.
Thank you. Councilor Crowden?
So there's no other way, other than complaint driven? That's the only,
There's two ways that the process starts from a prosecutorial perspective. The tree inspector, Marvin, he sees tree destruction evidence on it, because usually what's happened is after the fact that the cattle finds out that there's been some tree destruction. There's evidence of a clearing, or there's some machinery on the field. Or so he may see it driving by a farm, or there may be a complaint that he receives, and that's essentially the only way that the process gets started. Because I mean, let's face it, one person covering a county is there's gonna, and also there are, it's difficult to see an entire farm in the roadway. So there may be tree destruction going on that's just not visible.
Yeah, so one of the tools is Google Maps, I guess, like aerial, like is it a?
We use those in prosecutions to establish what was there before the previous construction as part of the trial. But in terms of discovering something, you know, unless you literally flew over the county,
Yeah,
there are some legal issues with respect to that, we'll let me get into today. Whether that's a search. Is, you know, is perhaps one way, but from the roadway, I mean, we're sort of handcuffed in terms of what we can see. And that, or complaints is what we're relying on.
I think somebody needs to be made an example, like I'm talking about first house. I'm sure there's lots of cases, we don't see anybody getting fined. We don't need names, but it needs to see that there is action being taken. But if somebody's made an example of it, it'll spread quickly and will help the situation.
Noted.
All right, we have a second delegation to speak about this as well. I would encourage all of the staff to stay and listen to the second delegation. And I believe that after that delegation, we could potentially have either a resolution that we all agree on, or we're all going to put input, including everybody in this room, to what Tyler's going to direct us to on the Perth County website. So all of the comments will be heard, and if you put it in writing, it's probably even better.
Yes, so through the mayor, again, there's an opportunity to fill the feedback form as well as, to throw Lizette under the bus on this one. However, if there's any additional comments, be happy to take those and consolidate them, and then we can receive the correspondence from, Clerk Scott, so.
Okay, I have a recommendation here that the Perth South Council receives the Forest Conservation Bylaw Review Update 2024-2025 report for information. Moved by Councillor Vanessa, second by Councillor Martin. All those in favor? Carried. So we'll have our second delegation come forward. And I would like to point out to our council that this morning we received from Tyler, the bylaw. And it has, the changes that were made. And we have a second, proposed changes to the bylaw with started by the farmers of Perth County. That is also in print, so please don't get it too confused. They're very similar, but they both have points to them. So now we have Gerald Folkman and Henry Koskamp, and the floor is yours, Darren.
Worship, Mayor Lord. Council, thank you for this opportunity to present. We have a different perspective on proceeding forward. We are very grateful that there is going to be a public consultation period. We're actually very grateful that there's this discussion is actually taking place. So in that environment of this openness and ability to share viewpoints, we'd like to make a presentation. We probably all have received a document. We have gone through the bylaw as it's proposed. We have made amendments to it, what we think how it should be changed. It's in bold, the changes we made, whatever is not in bold is as the existing bylaw is, okay? We think that in order to plant trees, we are wanting to plant trees, we promote planting trees. But we've got to go forward in a way of trust and cooperation with landowners. And if you're going to, we just heard pretty strong the prosecutory process, but that does not incentivize. It doesn't incentivize people to plant trees, okay? And so what we're presenting is to incentivize rather than penalize, more focus on the incentivize. And by incentivize, I mean the crafting of a bylaw to incentivize, not financial incentive. We don't hear about financial incentives. This is that the bylaw itself incentivizes people to plant trees, okay? Wind breaks for wind and for doing the most good. Provide most good, like for farmers and for mitigating climate change. There's gonna be more photosynthesis happening. With a single line of windbreak than in a forest, one single tree in the forest is only the top leaves. There's actually much photosynthesis taking place, okay? Maintaining woodlands and woodlots is, there's other reasons for that. I can't say this, but it's different like for wildlife, things like that. But if you want to address the climate, for carbon capture, per tree in a windbreak, you will have more carbon capture, okay? Also, windbreaks are management tools by farmers, they use them. They've used them for years, because they know in the lee side of a windbreak that after the first, maybe four, the height of the windbreak times about 4 out, your yield goes down, but after that exponentially goes up. So there's a bit of a yield loss right next to the windbreak, but after that it exponentially goes up. If you plant a windbreak right around the whole field, you're gonna create mold in the crop. So you've got to still have some air, okay? I'm getting a little very detailed here.
It's okay.
But I just want to point out that farmers are good stewards of the land. And we plant windbreaks for our own reasons. There's also aesthetic and landscaping purposes, So, and plans change. Like we had a house fire a number of years ago. We had to rebuild our house. There was a windbreak on the one side. And the house had to move over and septic had to, so we took out a row of wind, and that was only planted for aesthetic purpose. I planted that windbreak and I took it out and I moved the windbreak over. I planted it again. I replanted it. So there's reasons that windbreaks should have to come down because plans change on farmland. There could be buildings. You put in buildings and you might, what we're suggesting is that windbreaks, there's so many benefits to windbreaks. To encourage them that they should not be limited by area or size. Just encourage them, farmers to plant windbreaks. Okay. And you'll have a lot more uptake, you'll have a lot more trees planted because you're incentivizing them. Also, as was pointed out earlier, we promote the 1 hectare size of a woodland. That's what the Forestry Act requires. The province is not forcing the municipality to go down to half an acre or 0.2 of a hectare. There's nobody holding a gun to the municipality's head that they have to do that. It's totally within the power of the municipality to choose the size, how restrictive they actually want to be. So Hannah had studied the neighboring counties, 7 counties, 5 have the 1 hectare size, okay? The other thing is the appeal committee. We're so grateful that it is included in the proposed draft bylaw. We think that's a great avenue for landowners. The structure of the windbreak might be up for debate. We have it all broken down, and I don't want to get into all the details, but we have spent a lot of time on this, and we've got a lot of detail in what we put together. So it's actually another, we would prefer, rather than amendments, that you see our document as a whole. Okay? And but whatever is in gray, not bold, is in the existing. Also, I'd like to point out, in regards to Perth County, Perth County is really blessed with agricultural land, as Councillor Jim Vanessa said. Right? So we're blessed with that. So we live in primarily an agriculturally zoned area. The province of Ontario has already now a 66% tree cover. So, and the arable land in Ontario, you can look that up, is less than 5%. There's less than 5% arable land in Ontario. Most is the Canadian Shield in the north is rock. Well, Southwestern Ontario, we're blessed with this agricultural land, right? It's not all over the province. We don't have this all over the province. So what we're trying to do is have a marriage, so to speak, of agricultural, agricultural activities going on with forest conservation, okay? About wind, again, getting back to that, if you have a woodland, and I can see for, but actually, for blocking the wind, a small, like a half acre woodlot does not block a lot of wind. The wind goes around one side, around the other side. A windbreak will do a lot more good. So for addressing wind, it doesn't, a woodland does not help that much. A big one will help. Like, we're talking 25 acres or something like that, and there are those around. Okay, but a small one doesn't do that much for blocking wind, okay? And that's why we really advocate promoting windbreaks, tree plantations. And we have, I think we've gone on long enough, I'm not giving Henry the chance to speak, but, at least my partner in this, we've come up with this together, so I'll maybe turn it over to Henry.
Just very simple, we want to plant trees. I personally have a very negative attitude towards planting trees, because I think this is so restrictive. If I put a windbreak along my barn and it's over half an acre, I no longer own that. If I want to build another barn, I have to go through a process, I have to ask permission. If we go to the 1 hectare, let's put 1 hectare in perspective. 2 rows of trees, the measurement is cropping on either side, that width. So let's say 2 rows of trees. Can we vary 30 feet, 9 meters, maybe 10 meters? The length of a farm's usually about 1 kilometer long. That is right around 2.2 acres. If I don't plant that windbreak, do I have to get a lawyer and a planner to lay it out exactly to keep it under half an acre so I don't have? Because as soon as it becomes woodland, I now lose that land without my consent will be switched from arable land to woodland. And who better to take care of that woodland than the guy who planted it, kept the weeds down, took care of it, and he loves it. Okay, in our document, we put something called the tree registry. Okay, the tree registry gives you an opportunity to protect that windbreak from the next buyer who might want to rip it out. Okay, you can also register it, that you have the option to move it, change it, so it will not become part of the woodland. And just to lodge you are, it's your property, trees belong in the mix. Okay, but do we need to regulate everything over half an acre? Can we just plant? I'm thinking in the future, like, we may actually start growing, I'm thinking other counties where they had greenhouses. We might get into biomass. Can you imagine planting a couple of acres of biomass for the, and it might be a little poplar or American basswood, something like that. The tree count is there, you no longer own it. That management will need permission if and when you can manage it. And there's a lot of overreach. So the reason bylaw came out, and if we don't fundamentally change our attitude towards trees from incentivizing, okay, I don't see change coming. I think if we can change it from an incentive, and a lot of it's just stop the penalizing and give us the opportunity to put the trees where they belong, the right species on our farm. And if they need to be managed, give us the chance to manage them. And we did what we did for the purpose of, we need the engagement of the rural community. If the rural community cannot embrace it, it's status quo. We've heard that status quo is not acceptable. Okay, so let's rethink this. Give it a complete step back and relook at the whole thing. And let's see what opportunities we're missing. Okay, I hope you can all see my vision. Okay. Everyone else will say, open for questions.
Yeah. We'll give just a few minutes of questions, if anything. Anyone have any questions for Henry and Zero? Councilor Duffel?
Just going through this document, a lot of what you're saying makes perfect sense. It's very common sense stuff. I really appreciate the work that you guys are putting into this. It's makes sense. Makes sense from your perspective.
Councilor Vanessa?
Will there be an opportunity to have, this document that they handed out, put on the website, or it wasn't in the council package, so I'm wondering if there's other people in the crowd here who don't have a copy of it.
Well,
Can we get this out to, someone?
I believe it's a proposed document, and it's not, at the county level yet.
No, I understand, but just.
But in order-
Showing up for that meeting.
Yeah, in order for us to get it to the county council, and please correct me if I'm wrong, one of us might have to do a notice of motion so that it is officially considered. But I'd like to see, going through the rest of the information period, so I think you're at Perth East tonight, and then at North Perth, and then there will still be a public meeting December 10th, as Todd had said. So, let's see how that goes. You can always contact these gentlemen, they can get this around. I do believe you have some farmers that are backing you as well, and I can see that there is a lot of people in the room that own large pieces of land in First South, and they are listening. So it's going to be a good discussion, and I appreciate what these gentlemen have done. I also have a few questions with regards to the county, like we don't have a replanting position on our, as a county, we can cut down as many trees as we want on the side roads, and we don't replant, obviously. We're not leading, we're telling you you can't take it down, but we don't lead by example. So it's something that I would like to see, and I'll put in my resolution. Yeah, any other questions for Mr. Coscamp and Mr. Cook? Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Do you have any other?
You know, I was just wondering, did our report, accepted for information purposes?
Sure. Okay, I will, recommendation of the First South Council receives the Farmers of Perth County review of the current forestry bylaw received with inclusion. By Councilor Jeff Bell, second by Councilor Muckbell, all those in favor, carried. Thank you everyone for coming, and make sure you send your comments to the council. Yeah. You wanted to? Counselor Martin, if I do. All right, we're gonna get back to. Are you okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Yes. Okay, so we're at 7.5, the Ontario Clean Water Agency and legal proposal. Welcome.
Good morning, your worship, members of council and township staff. My name is Susan Budden and I'm the business development manager with the Ontario Clean Water Agency. With me today, I have Sam Sianis, who's the regional manager for this Southwest region. And we're really happy to be here today to present our renewal to you. Next slide. Carry on. So just a little bit about Aqua. We are very proud to be the largest provider of water and wastewater services in Ontario. We currently have over 230 clients, most of which are municipal partners, but we also do provide services to commercial and industrial systems, as well as First Nations communities and school boards. We operate over 1,000 facilities and provide a number of water and wastewater services. Our partnerships are strong. We have over 98% renewal rate of existing contracts. Next slide, please. So Aqua operates in a shared services model, which allows us to purchase goods and services in bulk, and we are able to then pass those savings on to our municipal partners. Our mandate is cost recovery, so that we're able to further invest in our tools and initiatives. Aqua is deemed an essential service, which means there's no fancy labor disruptions, so you're guaranteed continued service. And unlike many of our competitors, all equity stays within the province of Ontario. Another unique function of Aqua is we have 5 emergency response units throughout the province that can be used for things like flooding, ice storms, things like that. So those are readily available in case of emergencies. Slide, please. So currently Aqua, on behalf of the township, is the operating authority for the following drinking water systems: the St. Paul's drinking water system, as well as the Sebringville system, both of which are operated in accordance with the Safe Drinking Water Act of 2002 and Ontario Regulation 17003. In 2023, we assumed the operation of the Kirkton Woodham Community Centre, also operated in accordance with the Safe Drinking Water Act, under Regulation 31908 for small drinking water systems. Slide, please. So we've had a long-standing partnership with the Township of Perth South. We're very happy about that. As you can see, our partnership began back in 2008 with an initial 3-year term, and that's been extended a number of times since then. So we're proposing a renewal term that will begin January of 2026 and carry forward to December 31st of 2030. Next slide. So explanation of cost increases. You can imagine over the course of 18 years, a number of costs have increased. The most notable increase was a result of 2 labor increases, which came into effect in 2022 and 2024. So the first increase was the repeal of Bill 124, which was an Ontario law that capped public sector wage increases at 1% annually for 3 years. This bill was repealed in February of 2024 after court rulings found that it violated the Canadian Charter of Rights. So as a result of that, the operators received a 9.5% increase over that 3-year term to catch them up to where they should have been. The second labor increase was a result of the disparity between Aqua operator salaries and industry standards. So we were having issues with staff retention and staff attraction. It was a huge issue for us. We had a significant turnover in staff. So in 2023, Aqua, with the support of the MECP, approached the employer to negotiate increases to operator and trades positions, and special wage adjustments came into effect in January of 2024. So as a result of that, our retention has increased significantly, and we're very happy about that. Overall fleet costs have also increased over the 18 years. We've got higher lease costs as well as fuel and maintenance. In terms of insurance, with our ability to procure large bulk purchases for insurance as an agency, we're happy to note that the increase for insurance is about 5%, so less than what we were anticipating. So that's also in the 2026 budget. The next slide. So in addition to our regular operational duties, Aqua will provide 24/7 coverage 365 days of the year. We have an on-call rotation of staff to make sure that we are your guaranteed response to alarms and emergencies at all times. We will act as the town's overall responsible operator, or ORO. And with that includes working with the MACP for all regulatory reporting and inspections on behalf of the township. And lastly, we will provide all compliance support regarding the maintenance and the updates to the drinking water quality management system, which is the system that Justice O'Connor in part 2 of the Walkerton Inquiry recommended for all municipal drinking water systems. Next slide. The township will also have access to Aqua's Capital Works Manager. So this is a position that we have within the Southwest region. And this person is responsible for managing projects locally, and they're dedicated to this work, so they bring with them experience in water and wastewater. We also have an asset maintenance specialist, sorry. So all assets are tagged with a unique barcode, and work orders are issued on a regular basis for routine and preventative maintenance. This asset maintenance specialist ensures all assets are kept up to date for asset management and capital planning. And also Aqua's Corporate Compliance Department, they provide support to the local team to help us navigate regulatory changes. We also have developed and implemented a comprehensive cybersecurity program, and that aligns with recommendations set out by the MACP. So in closing, just a summary of what a partnership with Aqua will mean for the township of First South. As the operating authority for your water systems, your risk is shared with the Crown agency. You'll have access to specialized departments such as data support, asset management planning, process optimization, energy management, and funding application support. So we're always looking at ways to support our partners on multiple levels. This concludes our presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to present this to you, and we look forward to a continued partnership with you.
Any questions? That's what I'm.
Yeah, I have a few questions. So you were saying, so we will have access, but we have had access to a lot of these. So if we scroll back to the partnership with Aqua. So you speak to the asset maintenance specialist. How has that person been doing work in person?
I can speak to that. So the asset maintenance specialist basically supports our computerized maintenance management system. All your systems, drinking water, require us to log assets, inventory them. And it's not just an inventory, but we actually apply preventative maintenance guidelines and steps to the equipment. So an operator approaches the equipment, they have a work order, they know what work has to be done. They can also see what past work was done on that asset too.
So has the asset maintenance specialist flagged Seaverville Black Creek water system? Did they catch that the work has showed up now?
So it's the specific issue that we're referencing with respect to the Seaverville well was caught due to a routine inspection that we do on wells, which is a videoing of the wells. So our work management system does have the asset tag. It does have the asset set up to a maintenance schedule, and this inspection followed along with that.
Okay, another question I have, so on the next slide, it speaks to a funding application support. How has Aqua assisted processing applications for funding, and are there any currently?
I will defer to Susan
Sure.
on that. The only reason I say that, recently took over May 20th. I can't quite speak to things and events happening before that, but Susan and Anton have been, through their
Yes,
assistance here.
so through the chair, we have a department at Aqua that specifically looks for all funding applications. They're always looking for opportunities for applications. In fact, we did look into applications for the well, but it didn't meet criteria. So if there are opportunities, we are always looking. We've got a department dedicated to that. So I don't think specifically we found any funding support for you, but we are always looking. So
you work in a proactive manner with that, you're keeping an eye on it and see your members.
Yes.
Just so that I clarify. And then finally, so within the renewal proposal. So I was interested, because it's an increase, I mean, spent a lot of time telling us why, and I appreciate that, it all makes sense. But when it breaks down pricing proposal. As I read it, it says an additional 2,500 a month, an additional to what? Like what are we paying? Just for transparency, I think we should be sharing what we are paying as a township currently and over those 18 years if you.
Right, so, the current contract, I believe the monthly amount is in and around $5,000 a month.
4,700 roughly, 15. I don't know if that's exactly where it's kind of what I'm, well, estimate in front of me right now.
Yeah, around about that.
Okay, does that appear in the report anywhere and I missed it?
I don't believe it's in the report, no.
Thank you.
Did you want to comment, Tracy?
Just through, or it is in my report for the tax rates, Susan and I worked together on the amount, so it's basically a 50%, 50% increase with their CPI. Which we would have gotten anyways, and the increase, so it's about 12,000. Roughly a little over 12,000 to the Sebring bill and the St. Paul's system, so as they were basically the same amount split in two. And then a little bit extra for the Kirkton water systems.
Any further questions, Councilor Vanessa?
Just couple of questions here, I guess. We had a water plant owned by Watson and Associates here end of August, September was done. And did they not talk to Aqua about costs? So where was the ball dropped? Did Aqua not tell Watson that there was a fee increase coming, or did Watson not ask and didn't put it in and not do their job? Because we were given a report from Watson, so I can give fees within citizen.
That is a good question. I did not have any communication with Watson myself personally.
I'm assuming they talked to the staff some, because they got all the costs, like the new chemical analyzers, I mean, ABCD. Where was that ball drop? Did you know, or would you be able to find that out?
We can certainly look into it. I'm thinking maybe the timing of our discussions did not align with the timing of the financial plan with Watson, so that's something we can look into and let you know what happened there.
Okay, and then if you can just clarify for me, this is the first increase from Aqua in 18 years?
Other than CPI, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions for Susan and Sames? Councilor Mark Bell?
Just the, you mentioned, labor increases, and you mentioned, across the board, I don't, who do you compare yourself to? Just kind of what I'm getting at, labor wise, who is you work with?
Generally, we compare ourselves to other municipalities who are conducting the services in-house. We also metric that and benchmark it across other, our more formal O&M competitors. They're planting throughout the province, so.
Primarily municipalities, so that's right, against municipality staff, that's what, thank you.
It's our biggest comparison.
Councilor Barton?
You're a government agency, nonprofit.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, we full cost recovery on everything.
Okay.
Any other questions, Councilor Vanessa?
One last question, you've asked for, or you're proposing 5-year renewal commitment. Is it possible to turn that into 3 years? Would you be open to that?
We would be open to it. I mean, obviously, the longer the term, better for both parties. There's a bit more security offered in that particular case, but 3-year term is something that we would do as well.
And I'll give you the background. My concern or my thought is there's a possibility of another subdivision going into Sebringville that you may or may not be looking after at that time. And there's a possibility that we can, in my mind, that these two systems could be combined. And the cost of Aqua spread over 300 units would be considerably less per household than if it was spread over 33. And that's the only reason I would be asking for a 3-year term. There's no other reason than that.
Yep, no, that's certainly feasible, it's logical as well too. In our agreements, there are mechanisms and tools that are able to be used to adjust to changing circumstances as well. So.
Great questions. All right, I have a recommendation here. I also, before I read that though, I did want to mention that, further on in our meeting this morning, we have a report on St. Paul's well replacement, which might turn into Cedarville well replacement. And then we have a report coming up about the Black Creek water rates. So if you could stick around,
Absolutely.
we might have the opportunity if any of us have questions. Go ahead.
I just have a question before we move on to the
Yes.
recommendation. I'm wondering if staff knows, in the last 18 years, have we looked at other options? As we look at shared services and, it just seems maybe to do our due diligence right now, if it's not been looked at in 18 years, should we be taking a moment just to see before signing something with a 50% increase?
Ted, would you like?
Through the mayor, or I can provide some input. I know we have looked, reached out, inquired to some of our neighboring municipalities to see if they had any interest. Just in general over time. I don't think there was any of them that had the capacity to take on much more at that time as we had been looking. But that's really the only outside looking that we've done is just with some neighboring municipalities who have in-house services. But no, it never went as far as getting prices from, because I don't think they were interested that much.
And how long ago would you say that was?
5 years probably,
Oh, so I don't remember.
yeah. And just I guess at a CAO discussion level probably, yeah.
Go ahead, through you, or I'm all for shared services, sharing staff and everything, but water is one thing that I don't think you would want to give up and try and share with another municipality, just due to the risk management, the on-call, the emergency, like the time frame for somebody to get there, the emergency, that kind of thing. Just my opinion on, I'm not saying stick with Aqua, but I'm saying I don't know that that's, sorry, I'm not. Sorry, that didn't fall right. I'm just saying, look around for other service units, but what I'm saying is I don't think water operating is something you can share with another municipality, in all honesty, so just my opinion. And coming from somebody that ran and operated.
We've been very happy with your service, but just, it's our roles here to be financially responsible with our repairs money, and a 50% increase. We need to take a pause and just make sure that we're looking at all of our options. Absolutely.
Great question. I think what I'm hearing though is like from 2018, so we should have had increases all along, we just doing pretty well then for a while. Now it's hitting us and rates are hitting us and the well replacements, it's all happening at once. Yes. Okay, I have a recommendation in front of me. I'm not sure if the terms are going to, Councilor Marco.
Can we just, we take this for information, is that a possibility or an option, or I understand the recommendation, but do we want to do that as council, or?
All right, the first part is for information, the second one is to authorize the bylaw. To bring it forward, yeah. Okay.
I would propose to do the first one.
Want me to read them separately?
Does that explain to us the difference in this? When you say bring it forward, this is not signing the contract, but.
So currently the recommendation states that I bring forward a bylaw to authorize entering into the agreement, so we're not actually entering into the agreement as of today. And receive the report for information. We do have the renewal coming up for January 1st, so if I don't have to bring it forward immediately, I don't have to bring it forward at all, if council wishes to just not do that part of the recommendation. Personally, as staff, we have discussed the increase. We understand that is a bit of a sticker shock. But we also feel that as staff that we have been getting very good service for a very under priced contract for many years. So as staff, we feel that it's not out of the realm of justification to go ahead with this proposal. We've also discussed one of the reasons we do receive such good service and economic benefit to our service is because of the proximity of Aqua. A lot of agencies who provide this similar service, if we were to go out for RFP, would have more of a traveling component, I believe, attached to it. But as staff, we would be happy to look into it further if that's what council wishes to provide. But that's just my 2 cents, sorry. I probably went on with about 5 cents there.
Well said. Is there a reason why we would not?
No, I don't know, just just a little bit more time if we wanna dig into, I understand there's a 98% re-sign up fee, but what are the other 2% doing? And I don't know if we need to do this, but if council wants to. Put it vote, whatever.
All right, would you like me to include it for 3 or?
I would like to change the dates on this from 2026 to 2028.
Okay, I'll read that one and see how it goes. So we'll do 2. The recommendation that the council receives the Ontario Clean Water Agency renewal proposal for information moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Martel. All those in favor? Carried. Second recommendation that the council direct staff to bring forward an authorizing bylaw for the 2026 to 2029 service agreement with Aqua. Did you say?
This one says 2030.
2030.
Personally, I was in 2028.
That's 2 years then.
Well, 3 years from now, right?
It's 26, we have 728.
Yes.
28 then.
Yeah, so that's 2 years from now.
It's 2028, okay. So bylaw for 2026 to 2028, service agreement with Aqua, moved by Councillor Maness, seconded by Councillor Martel. All those in favor? I haven't had to say that word very long tonight. We didn't get it through. Okay, so now I will read. Just throw it out there, the council directs staff to bring forward an authorizing bylaw for the 2026 to 2030 service agreement with Aqua, moved by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, seconded by Councillor Jeff Bell. All those in favor?
Sorry, we're going for a 5-year now.
Well, 2026 to 2030, what you normally use for represent 5 years. Any discussion? Okay, so how many are we at now? 1, 2, 3. Okay, that is also. What's the word I'm looking for, Bob?
Defeated.
Defeated. Defeated. What would council like to do? Council Martin, can we request that staff helps us have a fuller picture of what our options are? And to touch base with the neighboring municipalities, that do their own, to do some research, what our neighbors are doing, and if there's an opportunity department. And we may still end up with Aqua, but I feel like it's maybe the time now to do that. We have to sign this agreement by the end of the year, right? You're probably gonna be undertaking this work. Do you think you can get that done?
I can get a report back, with what our neighboring municipalities are doing. I'm not sure, what all detail that they would provide, but.
And if we're willing.
If they're willing, yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we are deferring, but
There's no way you're gonna get an answer back from a neighboring municipality in 2 months. I mean, if we were looking for that, and unfortunately I have as much to blame as anybody else. I did not know this contract was coming up January first. These are discussions we should have had 6 months ago, or 9 months ago, probably. Fortunately or unfortunately, I think the only option we have right now is we have to sign the contract. There is no way an RFP can go out and be back in 2 months. It's just simply not possible.
I think Council Marston just asking for information.
Yeah, I'm just asking for information and then also maybe then we look at an extension. Maybe there's an offer of a 6-month extension while we do our due diligence. I don't wanna just sign this without doing the work. That's what we're here for.
Councilor Perth, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did, because I wasn't clear on the vote, I didn't realize we were voting between 3-year and 5-year.
Okay,
So I didn't vote,
all right.
but I do probably agree with Jim that there could be a lot of changes in the next 3 years in Cedarville. That could make a difference on the rates for everybody. So I didn't realize we were voting on a 3 and a 5-year.
I'm not sure that's gonna happen in 4 years, but. Okay, sorry, I got clear as to the direction the council would like to go. Would you like me to retake the vote, Stan?
Well, I think I should vote.
Why not voting?
So for clarification, when a member of council does not vote, it's automatically, a no, so.
Okay,
Okay,
sorry.
So this can come back with a
Yes.
little bit more information and then we can still move it to 3 or 5 years.
but we have to do something before the end of December. You guys have a timeline. It needs to be decided by, so first meeting in December. Do you think you could have some information back on what other?
Whatever information I can get, I can provide the council.
Okay, so we're gonna defer it, bring it back to the first meeting in December. For a vote, as to whether we do 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and we may know something about Cedarville by then, I don't know. Councilor Vanessa,
No,
okay,
sorry.
go ahead.
Tracy has.
No.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay, so we'll move on. So report to the chief building official bylaw management officer. There it is, you can test them.
Building permits, with a construction value of just over 1.5 million and almost 8,700 collection permit fees. 37 inspections were completed throughout the month. Permit activity is starting to slow down a little bit, but we still have applications coming in that we're reviewing. So year to date, it's been very strong. We have 123 permits issued. And you can see the numbers there for the construction value and permit fees collected to date are also very strong. Final drawings for the office renovations, we've received them. I'm working through the RFP right now and hopefully it'll be released shortly to get quotes back for the work to be completed. We decided that we'll stage the work just for continuity of operations so we can people have places to be or staff has rooms to be in while the renovation is going on. By law enforcement, there was one new law enforcement complaint for the month and no new property standards complaints for the month. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Martin? No, seeing none, I have a recommendation that the building official update report be received for information. Move 5. Councilor Martin, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Carried. Thanks, Martin.
Thank you.
Director of Public Works, 10, the report on the award tender for the St. Paul well replacement.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Or the report here is for the tender we had out for the St. Paul's well replacement. We had one bid from Aardvark Drilling. BM Ross, myself or BM Ross, we haven't done any specific work with Aardvark before, but BM Ross had done some reference checks on another project they had upcoming with Aardvark, and everything that they were able to gather, seemed to be, satisfactory. As a contractor, as we had priorly discussed priorly, I reached out to Aardvark to see if they're, able to, help us with the Severnville Black Creek well replacement, in a bit of an emergency type situation. And they were, able to, move some scheduling around, and we've got a tentative date for that to be on the 17th. It's 2 weeks from yesterday. So Anton and I have been having some discussions. I'm trying to set up some meetings to get make sure everything's in order to get that well work done as well. Using the on for the tendered rates in the tender. The St. Paul's well, Aardvark was planning on completing that work next spring. We allowed for lots of time in the tender to help get us lots of bids, good pricing, and that type of stuff, because they are busy. I think a lot of the well drillers maybe are busy right now. So I recommend award to Aardvark and confirmation that we have them complete the work in Severnville as well, yes.
As well, so we're looking for 2.
Well, it's in the recommendation here, that we award to Aardvark for the St. Paul's. And that replacement of the Severnville well, be added to the Aardvark.
So it's really 2, 1, happening in a couple weeks, and then 7.
Next spring, unless they're able to get it done sooner, but that's their initial plan, yeah.
Okay. And the well right now is currently functioning completely fine, meets all the health standards.
That is correct.
Right.
We've set up the monitoring on the well,
Yeah.
taking extra samples, taking extra turbidity readings. We have 2 layers of disinfection.
Do you want to just come a little closer, Anton? Only because I think other people need to hear you.
Sure.
Can you just repeat that?
Yeah. So, through you, man. We're taking turbidity readings, which is a measurement of the cloudiness of the water in the well. Normally it's done once a month. We're doing it every day. Normally we would have to take back these samples, bacteriological samples, once a month. We're taking them once a week. We're reporting at the end of every week to both the Ministry of the Environment and to the Board of Health. It's a non-goody well. It's an acronym that means groundwater under direct influence of surface water. There's none of that. There's a deficiency in the well, and Ken and I are moving as quickly as we can to get it corrected. Normally this process takes months and months. It sounds like we're gonna be able to get it done in a couple of weeks. So, yeah. We'll get it done as quickly as possible.
But the well is fine. The water is fine.
The water is fine, yes. It's been tested again and again. Results are coming back. Nothing reportable, and yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions regarding the well replacement, Councilor Cordy?
When we talk about stones, they're very minute, because if they were stones, they wreck the pump, wouldn't they? So they're very, very small that have been caught in the system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they must flow down really slow, and then the pump might suck them in. Is that how it works?
The pump will pull them in, but they wouldn't make it out into the system because the flow strainers in our equipment catch them. So it causes problems for us, but there's no way they're gonna get out to where a customer would see them or anything like that.
No, but the pump is in the middle of the aquifer. It's not right at the bottom or right at the top. So
No, so
yeah,
it was set at about 70 feet. And we've moved it up a little bit to get it away from the deficiency. In hopes that it'll help, and it seems to be helping somewhat.
So the deficiency was down lower than the pump.
Pretty close to where it was.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions, Councilor Vanessa?
Just a question, I guess, to Ken, on the tender. The tender was for the well drilling, then are we gonna, I'm assuming we're gonna use a local company then to actually hook the pump up?
Through the mayor, we haven't, that's part of the stuff I want to discuss at the meetings we're planning for later this week. Cause I think Aardvark has, the capacity to do some work, but I haven't got any pricing and stuff from them on that yet, but I think it's fairly minor, stuff, but. Yeah, we're looking into seeing who we're gonna get through that, correct?
So Ken, we really do need two recommendations here separated out.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the council report, but I'm not sure what was that as in.
I put in your
Okay,
recommendation.
so no, it's one recommendation for both projects, that you can separate it for one.
Yeah, no, it doesn't doesn't, I just want to be clear that it's 190,000 for Seagreen Vale, it's 190,000 in the spring for St. Paul's. That's what I want to be clear on. Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I have a recommendation of the Township of Perth South award the St. Paul's drinking water systems construction or replacement of the well tended to Aardvark drilling in the amount of $190,637.42, including HST, and that the replacement of the Sebring Black Creek well using the tender rates be added to the Aardvark drilling court tender. Moved by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Vanessa. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we are at 8.3, Deputy CAO Treasurer, Tracy. I will put the accounts on the floor. Recommendation that the accounts payable is in October 29th, 2025, in the period October 16th to 2025, in the amount of $772,023.27 be approved. Moved by Councilor Corby, second by Deputy Mayor Bill. Any questions regarding what's on the accounts payable? Anyone? Are you okay? Do you have a question?
One question, right at the very bottom, the air up and running. There's a cost of approximately $39,000 to the guest enterprises. Is that labor or does that include other things?
Through the mayor, I can provide some input. That's a drain clean out, included some brushing. But it's mainly big equipment costs.
And that will all be charged to the landowners.
Yeah, through the maintenance, so yeah. Right.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, Councilor LaFleur, any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. For item D, the report for Rock Creek water rates. Casey, would you like the floor?
Sure. So the report from the council is just, to get staff direction on what we would like to do with the Black water rates. Since we had Watson Associates, complete the water rate study in September, there's two key factors that, have emerged that Watson and municipal staff are not aware of. And that was the emergency well replacement and the, increase to the, aqua agreement. So I've given staff 3 scenarios and I also put a 4th scenario on their desk. So the first one is to stick with the original 5% annual for 5 years. Which would leave and pay for the well out of the reserve, and that would leave our reserve in a deficit of 61,000. We increased the rate 11% for 5 years, which would give us a positive reserve balance by the end of the 5 years of $4,700. The same increase would be needed to borrow from the tax levy and pay out over 5 years. So my scenario stuck to the 5 years because that's what we told council we would come back and do another water rate study. I did do a scenario for 10 years and I put it on council's desk. And if we paid the tax levy back over 10 years, charging them the same interest, the tax levy would charge the water reserve the same interest that the water reserve is earning, so we're not trying to make money off the water, we're just showing them interest. And we could leave the increase just at 7% as opposed to 5%. And that would mean the increase from Watson's increase would be another $34 a year in 2025. Or 2026, sorry, $72.27, $115 in 2028, $162 in 2029, and $214 in 2030. Increase over what Watson had said at 5%. So happy to answer any questions. I know there's a lot of information in that report, and just wanted to also reiterate that staff as well as Aqua did look for some grant options. And as council knows, there's grants are only open, intakes are only open certain times. A lot of the grants that were proposed, we've already used for our tax rate or for road projects. The green, OSAP green closed in March of 2025. So staff will continue to look for grants, but unfortunately, a lot of them, you can't have already started the project to get the grant. So I think we need to prepare to use our reserve. And if we can find a grant, we can always come back with different water rates, but we need to get these water rates firmed up for the budget process. So happy to answer any questions.
Open the floor. Councilor Vanessa?
Just wondering, what would happen if we simply went out, charged all the water users that are $6,000? That would pay for the well.
As a local improvement, basically. I have never done one on a water system. I've done it on a road project with underground, where you charge each homeowner based on their frontage. I'm not sure, maybe Aqua can help me. Have you ever heard of charging like a flat rate?
I have, sorry, so I've, in addition to working for Aqua, I've worked for municipalities and other places. Sometimes, as you're saying, when the water and sewer goes past their house, there'll be a hookup fee. It'll be several $1,000s for the water, several $1,000s for the sewer. They do that. It's not usually real popular when it first goes in, but over time, it is a savings. Doing a well on your own for each homeowner is tens of thousands of dollars, plus a septic bed and maintenance and everything else. If everybody chips in, once the infrastructure is there, you're saving money the rest of the time that it exists, right?
Is this an option we could give the resident or the users of Black Creek? The reason I say this, $6,000, one well at $190,000 with HST. Well, 33 people is extremely inexpensive. Every other resident of Perth South, including every other well in Sebringville, if their well goes bad, they have to pay for it themselves. And usually the well goes bad, it's like this one, it's unexpected. They have to come up with anywhere between $20,000 and $50,000. There is no grants available for any of them. I don't think there should be any grants available for this one either. $6,000 per user is extremely cheap. I am quite fine with deferring it over 5 years, 10 years, whatever the rest of the council agrees with, but I just want to make the point that this well, for the amount of users on it, is extremely inexpensive.
Through you, Mayor, the way a local improvement would work is, we would put, like council could even go a little lower, like 4,000 per user, and then we would have our own reserve. And you could put it, and it stays with the property, obviously not the person, right? So you could put it on the taxes and have it like similar to a local improvement paid off over 10 years. So every final tax bill, a tenth of that or whatever would be put on. That's something that council could look into, and also it, like I say, it wouldn't have to be the full 5,000-6,000, we could. You know, use the reserve a bit, we could use the local improvement option. And it would probably, be a doable thing, as opposed to borrowing from the tax levy.
Just following Councilor Vanessa's, comments, if, I believe that. If that's something we're gonna look at for Black Creek, I think that's something we should look at for St. Paul's as well. Because again, I think everyone else in this room, has to replace their own walls. So, we're not getting individual support for replacing our own walls, so. I think if we're doing it, if we follow up on Nessa's idea, you just need to make sure we're doing it for both those.
Can we leave it, or can we ask the rate users, the ratepayers, the water users for their input on that? I'm sure many of them will all want to pay it, like to pay it over time, and I'm quite fine with that also, but there may be others who would say, yeah, I'll save the interest.
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Van Ness and Councilor Bell. I don't know if we want to go 6,000, but I do like the 4,000, and that still would leave some reserve if we do have some equipment issues that we could draw. So I do like that idea, and I think it's fair that people that are living there now are enjoying it and using it, so they should be able to fund a certain amount. And then down the road, if they sell the house, somebody else has a higher water rate, but
Councilor Martin.
I'm just wondering how we're doing that. Is this a majority vote? Is this like, how do we make that work, right? So Jeff says, yeah, I wanna pay my $6,000. I'm a single mom and I can't come up with $6,000. Then how does that work? I think that we have a reserve for a reason, and we've been building a reserve for a reason, and this is the reason. So when these things happen, we're prepared to do that without coming at our ratepayers with an unexpected large bill. And that is part of the benefit of being in a water system and having to pay monthly costs, right? I have replaced my own well, but I don't pay a monthly fee. Goes into taking care of that and such, so. I would prefer scenario 2, if we're looking at the scenarios presented by staff. And mostly because I feel that that's the most transparent. I think if we're borrowing from the tax levy and it appears that we still have 170,000 sitting in a reserve somewhere, which we don't really have, because that money is borrowed from the tax levy. Just for transparency with the ratepayers, or whether we break that up a bit, but I would like to use a good portion of the reserve for the purpose of which it was used. You know, the money that sits in a reserve has less value power later on, so that would be my.
Well, that's Tracy, only because I thought we were wiping it and then trying to build a reserve up now.
So, yes, so if we go with, Councilor Martin's, option 2, we would deplete our reserve, there would be nothing in it. And it would take us the 5 years to get $4,000 in our reserve. You know, the province has mandated water. You have to have money in your water reserve to actually operate. I mean, not saying that anybody has any money in their water reserve. But it's council's comfort level if they wanna drain the reserve. Or if they want to, like 11% is a big hike on the water rate, so that's gonna be hard on people as well, cause I think in my report it was going to be another 102 in 2026, it's 102 over what the already increase that Aqua had provided, so. But it's totally council's decision whether they want to, you know, wipe out this reserve and try and get it back in a positive position by 5 years, or if they wanna have it in a deficit for 10 years, so.
Sorry, perhaps I can get a little bit of clarification. So it says reserve outcome positive balance 4,700. That is at the end of the 5 years.
Yes.
Okay, I misunderstood that.
Yeah, because so currently there's 171,000 in our reserve, that's it. So paying for this well is going to deplete it plus some. So that was, 11% is the best I could do to get it in a positive position by 5 years. But I'm not saying that, we couldn't go a little less than 11, and if another emergency happened, then you could use the tax levy with that borrowing. It's totally, council's decision, like you say, for the province. They only want you using your water reserve, that's why it's mandated to have money in that reserve, it's a user-based system. And I think, I can't remember right off the top of my head how many years, I think we're supposed to, like, it's.
I'm not sure.
And yeah, so anyways,
Just one last thing, $112 for the users, is that monthly, yearly?
that's annual, so it's 102 annual over what? So, Watson's proposal was it was going up to 17 something, or annually, now it'll be 18 something if we go with your option 2, so.
I would think that's a little easier for most families to handle than a surprise $6,000.
Yeah, unless you do the local improvement option where it goes on the taxes and then they would get, it would be an extra 100 or something on their tax, you know, depending how, what council wanted to do or. Yeah.
Counselor Vanessa first.
Well, I speak for the charging of $6,000, so realistically, we're gonna have to go with option 3 or 4. Or from the municipality, pay it off and have some money there, because there's always a possibility that a major piece of machinery may break over the next 10 years, we don't know. Aqua's replacing all the time, but unexpected things happen.
Would you want to work with the municipality when that happens?
Like, correct.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Millen, you got a question?
Yeah, a little further to Jamie's concern about whether people would have the funds to pay. If you did local improvement, that could be spread over a number of years also. So you're kind of just putting it in a different pot.
Mhm. And like, you know, or it does stay with property, so if they sell, they haven't been paying huge water rate. And then move out, whereas there's different ways of looking at it, obviously, right?
And they haven't put that money up front either.
No, it would stay with the property similar to any other local improvement.
What would council like to do? Councilor Kirby?
Yeah, we have to use reserve, that's what they've been saving for. To get the rest of it, I don't know how we're gonna do it, but you have to use a reserve and maybe keep a balance in the reserve of like 20 or 25,000. I'm not sure what the amount should look like, but. I like it going on the tax bill, I don't like the one timer. Because if somebody sells their house, they paid for it. I like the one on the tax bill. And let the homeowner, whoever lives there has to pay that off over time. So use the majority of the reserve, that's what they've been saving for, and that's what it's there for.
This is scenario number 4, 7%.
So that is using borrowing from the municipality and paying it off over 10 years. So it's only operating a budget for 10 years, so I just split the 171. Over 10 years. And so.
Councilor Martin?
I'm sorry, I feel like I'm doing too much talking here, but I just wonder if we could offer some clarification, because within the community, there were some questions between the 171 in your report and the 163 in Ken's report. For the cost of without HST.
I believe, yeah, Ken's reported 190.
So where does 171.65 come from?
So that's our share of the PST that we do not get back. So, when you pay a bill, we get the full GST portion of HST, but but we only get 78% of the PST portion. So I took that, we have a formula, we all use it, that we add a little, there's a formula. This is what you.
That, but we
Yeah,
appreciate you
yeah.
explaining that,
Yeah,
because those
yeah.
numbers didn't match, and I
Yeah.
know there were some questions.
So that would be what would go on to your accounts, you would see that. The base cost plus the 0.0176 that we don't get back.
Thank you for clarifying.
Counselor Carly?
So we're not that sure if we get the HST back, are we? Like, I mean, we're very close, so.
We're close, but we did take some things out of the tender as requested from the spring, so we will have some other extra costs, right?
Correct, there's a contingency amount in there as well that I think would cover a lot of the extra costs, holding it well.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Just for clarification, so the 190 is with the taxes out
In
in,
Include.
so what is it without the tax?
the 171 that I use.
So it's actually 171, and that's what we have in the reserve,
Yes,
and you've got allowances in. So. Really, we're not in the hole,
We're really close.
we might be down a few $1,000s, not 30 or 40 that it indicates with the 190. So, talking dollars and cents. If your contingency fund covers everything. The overall cost of putting this well in is $171,000. We have $171,000 in reserve. So we're kind of blowing this out of proportion, are we not?
well, no, because we also have to take into consideration the 50% increase from Aqua too, so we're trying to come up with that as well, because. If you look at scenario 2, draining the reserve. With the deficit we're going to see in 2025, because there was quite a bit of extras from Aqua. If you looked at the actual, these are just estimates, obviously going forward, our reserve is gonna be in the whole 3,400, and then it's going forward, we're gonna be in the hole. Cause each year, Aqua's is gonna go up to 50% plus their CPI, so
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's basically to cover for the well and the Aqua increase, which, you know, we've all said is probably worth it. We've been getting good service. But it's to get that, pay ourselves back for that well and then keep going forward.
So the $1,800 would cover Aqua's cost and put a little in the reserve. How much? Put a little.
I don't think so. I think we're going to be going in the hole. We're gonna be, so when Aqua figured out, Watson did their rate study, they were also adding interest to the reserve, which we have not done up until this point, which we were just when we started to do. So we're now losing the interest on that reserve because it's in a hole. So there's a couple of factors. We've had the increase from Aqua, we've lost the interest that we were planning on using. And then we've depleted the reserve. So it's kind of like a domino effect here, like we're, but I mean, in all, council can stick to the 5% and not touch it, and we see where we're at the end of 2026, and we can bring it back. It's just whether you wanna do this now before we start budget process, is what staff was thinking, so.
And how long does the well generally last?
So there's two different grades of well. There's a homeowner grade well, and there's a municipal spec well. Municipal has a thicker wall, it has a concrete base. Usually, I think in about 25 to 30 years, you start looking at the well and you say, okay, what is the condition? How much is it deteriorated? Should we be running a camera down this well? How often? The one in St. Paul's, I think was 1974, 78, so you've done very well. And it's just a homeowner grade well. So a lot of it has to do with the installation and the soil conditions and the water. So it's quite a broad range, really, but you're talking about decades. So 25 to 30 years is pretty safe bet.
Spending.
Okay, so we're really just trying to figure out what we can get into the reserve to keep our treasurer happy or.
And the province.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm looking for a recommendation from council. What would they like to do? Scenario 1, 2, 3, or 4? Again, we're wiping this clean. Well, it's going to be depleted and we need to figure out an amount to keep it going. Deputy Mayor Wellham,
Yes, I'd like to go with, 4. 70%,
7%?
yes.
Go ahead.
Just clarification, do you wanna go 7% and just use the reserve, or do you wanna do 7% and borrow from the tax rate?
I
I think we
see no reason why we would
just do
not use the reserve and then borrow from the tax ordinance. So I think we use the reserve up. And then if there's something comes up, we have the opportunity to borrow from the tax source.
Were you okay with that? Okay, so maybe the council receives the report titled "The Black Creek Water Rates" dated November 4th, 2025 for information. And that council instruct direction for scenario number 4, 7% for the Black Creek water rates. Move 5. Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, second 5. Jeff Bell. All those in favor? Carried. I should ask this question, do we need to have this conversation around St. Paul then?
Through you, Mayor Orr, I think, we had the luxury of that well being included in the St. Paul's rates already. So I think we're probably okay.
Okay,
And like, I said in my report, I think I did anyway, it's been a while since I put it. It's something that staff will look at annually, these rates to see, because obviously these are just based on 2025 to date, and you never know what your operating gonna end up as. So I was, basically guesstimating what's gonna happen to the reserve at year end from that operating surplus or deficit. So we will look at that again at the end of 2026 and, be able to come up with maybe another recommendation for council.
okay, Councilor Carter?
In the future, you never know when another grant will come along for improvements inside the water houses, because we had one in 2017, like 80,000 that was split between the two, so. There's always an opportunity that we'll have upgrades come through a grant, hopefully sometime, and that would alleviate some of the capital pressure on the reserves.
Okay. Thank you, Anton, Sam, and Susan, for coming to our meeting today, answering our questions, and we will get back to you before the end of 2020. To see what we're going to do.
Thank you very much.
2020. It is flop. Okay, we have just a couple more reports here. I'm gonna keep going. So we are at item C, the amendment to the budget policy. Tracy, would you like
Yeah.
to?
So, through you, Mayor Orr, this is, just, a budgeting. I don't know, what's the word I look for? Something to start the budget process before we actually get into the budget process. I went back and I did, Ken's annual, contribution to the tax levy from capital, for capital projects. And I came up with the 1.25, I would like to put that as, that is going to be the amount in our operating budget every year. And to make Ken happy, I did say we'll CPI it every year, and we'll just use the same indexing we use for the for staff raises, the July to June, just for ease of administration. And I also have some transfers to reserves that I would like to be part of the actual budget, so that this stuff is already in the budget, council doesn't have to worry about it, it's part of our budget policy. We will come back to council, once we get a chance to, now that Will's on board, we're gonna go over these reserves, we'll come up with, caps where we want things to be. But some of these reserves, like the policing, we put that to 30, because if you're gonna buy a car every 4 years, you're gonna need that money. the severe weather, we can call it whatever you want, but basically what that is I would like a standard tax rate, so we're not up and down because something has happened. If we have a bad weather, or we have washouts, or we have, like similar to this year, the guys were in a brush cutting trees, those kind of things, that's where your severe weather is gonna come in to offset your deficit on your budget, or to help pay for something you weren't expecting. The roads operations, I would like to start, now this is council's, decision, but I would like to start building up, further in my report, I was trying to collapse some of these road reserves, and it gives us 3 million. But if we start building that roads operation reserve, we can maybe not hit the tax levy so much for road projects. So that's kind of what I'm trying to build, is we've got a reserve for road projects, and it doesn't have to have a tax levy every year, so we can start adjusting. Just some thoughts, and it's here for council's discussion, so.
Councilor Vanessa, you
I'm
agree with us?
confused, this is a normal state of being, but anyways, so we're taking $100,000, you said, it doesn't affect the tax levy, but to get it, we take it from taxes.
That's to start building, like 3 million is not gonna get a lot of jobs. And that's one I just put in there for, like I said, for council's discussion. So do we wanna start building up that roads operation reserve as opposed to hitting the tax levy every year to do job? That's kind of what I'm trying
If
to
you're
decide.
setting it up, it's coming out of taxes.
To a point, yes, and then
But
eventually you
there's no
don't,
free money out there. I mean, it's
no,
coming out
but
of-
eventually you don't have to put 1.2 million on the tax levy every year. You have a reserve now to use.
I realize that, but I would sooner have my money in my pocket for 5 years. And then when you need it, you take it, than have it sitting in a bank account where it depreciates 30% a year. Right, the problem is, we have, first up right now is $10 million roughly in reserves. And it buys exactly what 4 million would have bought 3 or 4 years ago. And the money is frittering away, it has no value. So I personally don't wanna build too many reserves, quite honestly. It was in ratepayers' pockets. I mean, we're coming into a period of time, I mean, the federal government has told us we have to tighten our belt. Yeah, I don't want to be building any more reserves. I understand we need to reserve, but to build them higher than the 10 million we have now, I don't understand.
I agree, but, you just put 1.4 million dollars on the tax levy and didn't use that 3 million in the road reserve. So this is what I'm trying to get at, is if you're building a roads operation reserve, why are you putting it on the tax levy? So this is where I'm trying to get an amount where we have a roads operation reserve and we use it, so.
Right, Councilor Corbett?
I think what Tracy's trying to do is keep a tax levy on a nice even plane instead of 3%, 7%, and then zigzagging like this, so. If that's the case, I don't really have a problem with it. I'd rather see a lot more balanced tax rate. And even right across the board for the next 10 years, if that's the way it's gonna work.
Councilor Martin?
So can I get some clarification on when we use that reserve? Because when it came to budget time last year and we were like, we have these big reserves, we should use them. We had feedback from our CEO at the time who said, you don't want to fund under the reserve because that gives you a false tax rate. So building a reserve, when can we actually use it? And then therefore, what's the point?
Yes.
Councilor Vanessa.
Yeah, so through Mary, that's what I'm trying to get at with this, is that you are using your reserves for projects and you're using your tax levy for operating. So, but you have to build those reserves to the point where they're there to use, right? So, like in all honesty, we had this, road paving reserve. I combined, I can't remember what was in what now, but instead of putting 1.4 million on the tax levy, we should have used $1 million out of one of these reserves. So
we tried to do that.
But, so this is me just getting a handle on these books and trying to get them so they're streamlined and we're using, we've got capital stream and we've got an operating stream. But to get there, you're always gonna have something in your tax levy for your capital stream, but it shouldn't be totally on your tax levy. So it's where I'm trying to get at, and that roads operation 100 grand, that one I don't really care whether it stays in or not. I was just trying to get council's feel on, do you wanna be building up like a roads operation reserve as opposed to always having that, tax levies for capital?
Councilor Parker?
I agree with Jim, we don't need to build any more reserves, as long as we don't create more reserves, like go higher, we don't need to go higher, so, as long as that works that way.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I guess I'm somewhat confused because we already have all these reserves in there, right? So you're wanting to increase those reserves that we currently have by that amount?
This is what your annual contribution would be. So annually, if we put 30,000 in the police reserve, which is basically what we've been doing, by the end of 4 years, you're gonna have enough to pay for the vehicle, right? Severe weather is 25, it maybe doesn't have to be that high, but.
If I can just, if we knew what was in there now, I'd be able to say yes or no. But because I don't know how much is in there already,
Okay, I see what you're saying, so.
we don't know.
Yeah,
Like if, for example, severe weather, I thought we had over 100,000 in there, but now you wanna put another 25. I think what we need to do is know what is in there now, and then council maybe set the limit.
okay, so I think in the equipment reserve right now, there's 1.6. So and even, this is historically what you've been putting in the reserve, yeah. Roads operation is new, severe weather, yeah, there's about 100 grand in there. The laptop for 2,500 is what you've been putting in all along, so then when new council comes, you've got, the election reserve is 5,000, which you drain that reserve pretty quickly when you do an election. Drainage, last year was 31, but like, when I talked to Councilor Vanessa, like 50 grand is only gonna do 2 drains if you actually get them, so, I can't remember, I think we pretty much depleted that drainage reserve with, when I do the round for 2025. Yeah, so the 1.6 in the equipment, as soon as Ken replaces a grader, that would be pretty much empty, right, Ken? Or 2 big graders, 2 graders.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but I can bring back a report on where we're at. For those, but, yeah, so.
For me, it would certainly make it a lot easier to make a decision.
When do you think you're bringing a budget?
Well, I've got the auditors here next week to start 2025 year end. So hopefully, once they're gone, I can get at the budget. Still waiting on the, building assessment reserve to actually finish up capital, because I don't know what's gonna come out of that. But
Any indication on when that building assessment's coming back? I feel like we've been waiting on that
Yeah.
for months.
Yeah, as far as I know, any day, but.
That was too.
Yeah. I agree.
Hey Tracy, are you comfortable if we relay this report? So that we can do the comparison as that. So do I need to get there or anything?
Sure, we can just,
Okay, more information. Recommendation that council receives the report titled amendment to the budget policy dated November 4th, 2025 for deferred for more information. Okay. You are doing a fantastic job. You're really making it transparent and clear, and I really appreciate that. Oh, moved by Council Martin, second by Councilor Jeff Bell, all those in favor, carried. Okay, Lizette, you're up.
thank you, Mayor Orr. So I just have a report, regarding a petition for a new branch of the Coxsackie Drain. This came about from the on-site meeting on the flood drain of the neighboring property, which is actually a separate watershed. Was having some drainage issues, and so they've put forward this petition. I would recommend, because Brandon Widner is working on a report in that area, that we accept the petition, and appoint Spritz to do the report on this. All right.
The question maybe Ken can hopefully answer. Ken, it appears that it's only on one property. And does a municipal drain fall when it only covers one property?
Through the mayor, so I think the intent is for the drain to be on the one property up to the road, under the road. And then it would serve the property on the south side of the road, so it's a drain to serve the property on the south side of the road. And which is kind of normal for drains now, that you wouldn't have a municipal drain go into that property, the second one very far, it just goes to the road edge. And then it's able to pile into it, so from the south side of the road, under the road and through the neighboring parcel is what the watershed I would expect would look like. Thank you.
Any further questions for Liza? No? Seeing none, I have a recommendation that the council considers the drain petition request received from Grant Thompson and agrees to proceed with the petition. And further, the council appoints Spritz Associates to prepare a report on the proposed drainage works. Moved by Councillor Vanessa, second by Councillor Markell. All those in favor? Carried. Correspondence, item 9. There is a letter of correspondence from the St. Mary's and Area Mobility Service. Sam, you're on that meeting. Do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, I brought this back to the mobility bus committee or board. They have an aging fleet. I just got a new report. They're up to 27,000 in vehicle expenses for 2025. And the one they use the most, I think, is that bus. It's a 2015. And we have a wellness fund. And I thought it'd be a good place to put the money. It serves our area, St. Mary's and Zora, I think. Jim Aitchison, our former mayor, was on that. He's probably been on that board of directors since the day it started. He was very passionate about it, and I think it would be a good place to put the wellness fund in the memory of Jim.
Okay, so we have the 25,000. We do. What would council like to do? Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I would like to, the township to go ahead and send the 25,000 to the mobility bus.
This would be for a new vehicle?
I would make a stipulation, it's for equipment only. It's not operational. We would like to see the vehicle, but they have about 60,000, but they need like 130 or 40. So this will go a long way to get there.
And they are doing fundraising through.
Yes, and they met with John Nader and Malcolm Ray about trying to find some funding, so I'll know a bit more about that tomorrow, so.
For that?
Would there be a possibility of having Ms. Myers come to our next meeting and just outline what they're actually doing with, like, how they are with fundraising and everything else?
Yeah, I can bring it tomorrow. I know they've approached the service clubs. They are starting to look at a way to replace that one vehicle.
Okay, Councilor Markell?
The one question I had was about ridership for First Hill residents, so if she can come with that data, that'd be great to know.
So I'm sensing we're deferring, giving that money or potentially giving that money till we have her come to see us next council meeting. Okay, if there's anybody else in the area that is also known for wellness, I have tried to promote it, but I don't seem to be getting too many requests, so. Are we okay with that? Okay, so we're gonna ask them to come make presentation and see where it goes from there. Okay? The next correspondence is 9.2, the correspondence from Adrian Schuling regarding Black Creek well replacement. I believe everybody has read that, it was in an email earlier. Any comments, suggestions? Not suggest that?
I think during the course of this meeting, I think most of everything in here has been addressed, I think.
And I do believe Aqua has, this letter as well, so, they can address anything further if it needs to be. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I take objection to where the states that the funding and grants, the decision not to apply for available grant programs. We did not say we would not apply. We said we would apply if they were available. And back in, I think it was 2017, we did apply for a CWWF grant for both wells. We received a total of $75,000 for the well systems at the time. And for Stephenville, we added another 14,000, and we spent a total of 51,500 on Stephenville. And at that time, both wells were cambered and had new equipment installed. So we do apply for grants, and I take objection to indicate that we don't.
Thank you, everyone. Noted. Anybody else want to clarify anything? Okay, we'll move on for council reports. Who would like to start? Sam?
Mobility bus tomorrow, other than that, everything's good.
Councilor Bell?
Just a busy time with the chamber. There's a lot going on with the business sections where it's coming up. Obviously they had the roundtables and everything, so it's just been a busy time in October. And we're good, nice business sections. Moving it to Tom Patterson this year, changing the format a little bit, so. With change comes some apprehension, but we'll see how it goes. That's it. So it's that.
Okay.
All fine.
Councilor Vines? Jeffo?
Quiet here.
Councilor Martin?
Yeah, mostly quiet for me too, but I did want to extend the invitation, and now I don't have the dates in front of me, but here with Healthcare Alliance is doing community forums in St. Mary's and Stratford, and if you know anybody that would like to come and ask questions, that's the place to do it.
Question. Where are those? Are those on the website or?
And I know, as I'm looking for it right now.
I just, people have gone, there's more staff than there's
Unfortunately,
attendees.
there is more staff, yes, because staff's required to go to answer questions, but. I can't see it right now, but I'm sure I can send it forward.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I did attend the exercise class yesterday morning, just to see what it was about. It was an excellent class, I highly recommend it. It's 7 people, and, no, it was great. I hope that program grows. I'd like to thank Ken and the staff for cleaning up the cenotaph. We are preparing for this Sunday, 1:30, for our Legion, service. And, the guest speaker this year is Dave Ford. We are laying a wreath in memory of Jim Aitchison. And, his grandson's gonna do a reading as well. So we encourage everybody to attend. Yeah, just a lot of calls regarding the tree bylaw. And, we've got a agenda on county council as well, this evening's bylaw. I think that is it for what I have right now. I'm planning on attending the chamber event, and, we had a successful, museum event as well. The long event, but it was fun, so. All right, I have a bylaw here, with the bylaw 40/2025, the bylaw to amend the township first zoning bylaw for the property located at 1860 Road 138, between first, second, and third readings, and be properly signed and sealed. Moved by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Jeff Bell. All those in favor? Carried. No other announcements? No notice motions, no other business, no session period? Deputy Mayor or Deputy Warden, any questions from us?
No, not this time, your worship.
Thank you. You stayed the whole time. Yes. Confirmatory bylaw, the recommendation of the bylaw 44/2025 being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution of the township of Perth, be given first, second, and third readings, and properly signed and sealed. Moved by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, seconded by Councillor Corby. All those in favor? Carried. And I have a recommendation that the meeting does adjourn by 12:23. Moved by Councillor Mattel, seconded by Councillor Vanessa. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, everybody. Last meeting, we're on. I don't want this.